And because you're already lying on the floor, then lie on the floor. Sometimes the idea of start standing, so that then there's also another scan and standing, but I'm going to trust each one of you came into the room walking. And you may or may not remember what it was like. But often when something changes, then we remember this is different. And that's what you're paying attention to, differences. In order to really begin a process of discerning differences, we have to go slow. Because if we go faster, first of all, it's our pattern, it's our habit. That's more hardwired in. And the slowness and the smallness is so that we can really begin to discern a difference. And it'll be a small difference. And again, awareness is more of the sympathetic nervous system. It's more muscular. So the idea is to soften it. So as you rest here, just eyes closed, unless you want them open, let your eyes be soft. And you allow your eyes to sink back into your head. And someone has a lovely little tail wagging in their face, sitting on their arm. This is what my leote does with me, and Bachi too. And just listen to your contact, because it's you in this moment resting on the floor. So that if you discern at any moment, there's a reason, it doesn't have to be a big reason, that you care to shift how you rest, to listen. You do it slowly, easy. The reason for this is not that you will only in your life go slow and small, but that in this moment when you're attuning yourself to listening to you and learning pathways, maybe a little different than's familiar, that it starts to become part of your repertoire. So that then when you have to go really fast, because it's life, you have to jump too, you have to get out of the way, you have to take an action, you do without tweaking yourself, or the term I've used, zugging yourself. You just, even if something tweaks, you just move through it. You pause for a minute. What's going on? So today I decided to start small and slow to bring you in where this is going to go. And there'll be different lessons, so it's not one lesson I'm just continuing with. But it's weaving the lessons into how we function and how we learn. Slowly, with that quiet listening, begin to roll your head from side to side, slowly. And you discern, well, I chose one direction versus another. What's the difference? Why I started where I started? It is never right or wrong. It's simply, in this moment, is that usually what I do? Or is for some reason or another, I usually do that, but today I did this because it felt different. Why? How come? It depends whether you want to understand how come, but you just make it easy. And then you bring your head back to the neutral. Now, each one of us always has often a preference. Today's lesson is going to take you from side to side. So we've done many lessons about rolling, and this will have some of it in it. Could you entertain, as you rest here, with yourself at ease, listening? If I ask you slowly to begin to think how you would roll to one side, but you don't do it yet. You're just in your mind's eye rehearsing it. Which side do you think you would go to first? How would you gather yourself up so that none of you felt it got left behind and there was a little pulling or jerking? Everything came along. Would there be, from lying long, legs long, a way you folded yourself? Would your breath organize? And even if this may not have been the direction you would have initiated with, please think, feel, sense, and roll yourself onto your right side slowly, as if that's the whole lesson. It's not. But let it be so informative of how you do it, even if you felt you would have first gone to the left. Gravity pushes down on us. That's what it does. We live in a gravitational field. And the difference of when we feel the weight of gravity on us is more an indication that we're not as well organized as when it just felt so light and easy. We feel happier, healthier, more comfortable, more aligned. It's nicer when we find this alignment in our gravitational field. The forces of gravity no longer resist us. We're resisting them. We work together. Now, as you lie on your right side, either use your bottom arm as a pillow to rest your head on, or use some head support, but the head support would replicate the height of your arm if it were the arm you were resting on, so that there's a sense that the line of your head, neck, spine, down to your sacrum and tailbone are relatively aligned, that you don't have the head higher up or lower down. That would change the configuration of your spine. And you rest there. You bend your hips and knees 90 degrees or in the proximity where for you it's easy, that there isn't a feeling of strain or pull or tugging to do it correctly. And you rest here for a moment. Now, just pay attention to your tongue in your mouth and your eyes. You're lying on your right side. The gravitational force, where are your eyes in neutral? Can you feel that they're hanging a little bit in the direction of the floor, the right side? That you could fixate them exactly forward, but you'd have to do a little bit more work. The muscles are constraining them a little bit. They don't fall out of your eyes. They don't fall totally to the right. But notice your right eye and your left eye. And then notice your tongue. The tongue, is it subtly resting a little bit more in the well of the right side of your mouth? And you can change it, you can try to correct it, but feel, without doing anything, just at ease and at rest, this gravitational force is there. You can still be in neutral with it. And throughout, you listen to your breathing, because we're going to do this so slow and so easy that there isn't really a need to feel more athletic in your breathing. Now slowly roll back onto your back. You're unfolding yourself, and feel that everything that begins to transition to roll you to your back, like a wheel, is rolling on the ground. And you return to your back, and you unfold yourself. And you rest here for a moment. If you had head support that you didn't need when you were lying on your back, use a hand to slip it out. And feel that gravitational force. Your eyes now, unless you are thinking narrowly focused because you're ruminating on everything else that has to be done, let that go right now. Your eyes are sinking back into the hammock of the diaphragm muscle of your eyes. And the more they can just rest back there, that's this what we call open focus. Softening your eyes, and more of a peripheral view becomes awakens within you. You don't have to work at it. It just happens. And now make an image, a gentle image, that goes maybe from the tip of your nose to your chin. And then make that image of that line from your chin continuing down. Don't lift your head to look, but think for a moment, feel, is that line that went from the tip of your nose to your chin angled directly between your legs, or is there a subtle bias a little to the right or the left? You don't have to know for sure, but it's asking to create an idea of sensing, but without lifting your head to look, because then you're going to change everything. But if you are I gotta see, then lift your head slowly as you exhale and see without any correction where you think there's a little bit of a bias. You don't have to, though. But if you want to, you would do it slow and see if there is a bias or the bias you sense. It might be of pressure on the floor. And then slowly, just remember if the sensation you have, the feeling or the sight, is there's a subtle little bias, or if you're directly in the middle. And then with the same awareness of ease, of how you gather yourself together, and portions of you will depart the floor as other portions, like a wheel, a very well-balanced, full tire, roll you back onto your right side. You gather yourself up, and you want it to be pleasant. The only time I really understand is when we get I joke about it, our drawers in our way. They thong us, or my camisole or something, the strap. I want to, because I'm feeling something. So that's fine. You know what you're doing to make it nicer. And now you're back on your right side, supported. And notice what you care to do with your left hand. It can be in a push-up position in front of your chest. It could be resting on top of your left side. And then I suggest, as we're going to make these subtle movements, you make a comparison of how you organize your left hand, your left arm, to see, does it make a difference? And what's the difference? Where do you feel more stable, that you can move a little bit around something so that your breathing is just as easy as it's been so far? Slowly, a really small amount. Begin to take your chin, your nose, it'll take your eyes too, down a little bit. It's folding. So it's not towards the floor, but it's in the direction of your chest, your belly, your knees, but it's small. And then you bring your head back. And do that listening to how. Where do you feel portions of you come along? And where do you feel portions don't move? You didn't tell me to move them. But what if something could be easier and nicer? Where would something subtly, this small amount, move? And then you bring your head back, the little bit that it tilted downward. you bring it back. And because there's gravity here, you might discern, even though you're looking down, that's the intention, there might be the subtlest little bias that your chin, your nose still curve a little bit in the direction of the floor. It's not just due south, we'll say. Maybe it's a little, if you see this as southwest or southeast, if you're looking at a clock. And then you come back. Now this time, you're going to do the movement again, easy. But think of the middle of your sternum, your chest plate. And that area, as if you could take, maybe this is when you might take your left hand, place a little finger at what you think is the middle of your sternum, and you encourage the sternum to sink back behind you. You can use your left hand to clarify. Is it easier if the left hand is standing on the floor as a support? Or if the left hand is resting on your left side? Where do you feel subtly something just makes it a little easier? My balance, my stability. And notice, does your head, your nose, your chin follow? But you just changed the initiation. And the middle of your sternum might be someplace about your thoracic 3 or 4 vertebra. And it's still looking downward, folding. Notice it's subtle, but what happened in your collarbones? And what happened without doing in your abdominals? And then you let that go. And now slowly, with your left ankle, soft and easy, begin to fold or flex your left ankle so that the toes softly, the facing or dorsum of your foot, move closer towards your shin bone. The heel extends a little down, and then you release. And you do that movement, individual explorations, but listen. Does that say something in your abdominals? And in one side of your abdominals more than the other? Or does that start to ripple up through you? And then begin to add in, as you flex your left ankle, you begin to think of, what about the middle of my sternum, leaning back as if I was resting behind me on a wall. Let's say you were, when I was traveling to New York at some point, and some of the places I would stay at, I was in a twin-size bed or a full-size bed. And so I could actually lean my back up against the wall. You just imagine, would there be a portion of my spine as I think of flexing the left ankle, and I'm thinking my sternum is leaning back. You're coupling it. What happened in your collarbones? What happened in your chin, your nose, your eyes? And you get it soft and easy because it's awakening a global folding or flexion pattern. And you discern a little difference between the left side and your right. And then slowly, with this idea of folding, could you begin to do what would be most efficient to roll onto your back and just unfold and rest for a moment? And just feel if you fold or you extend to go back. Is the surface there to meet you in each moment so that there are no air bubbles or speed bumps or potholes, but just a smooth, flat, easy, soft surface? and listen to your contact. Does one side rest differently? And is it surprising you which side? It's 50-50 if it's the right side or the left. And each person might discern something different. And then slowly, fold yourself up slowly. Imagine it first so that you transition, feeling the surface. You incrementally, slowly will gather yourself up and roll onto your left side. When you come to the left, is the left arm available to rest your head on? Would head support be preferred? You're still looking for that head, neck, spine, down into your sacral bone alignment. And it's different, certainly in me, and I would suspect in others, of the support I may or may not need when I'm lying on one side compared to the other. You fold yourself up and begin slowly. First notice I'm on my left side. So what about my eyes now and my tongue? Does the gravitational force, the weight of gravity in this neutral position have a subtle effect where there's a little bit more falling to the left? Ooh, we're women here right now. What about your breasts? Is gravity taking them a little bit more towards the floor? What about your belly? What about your right thigh resting on the left? Or your calf muscles? So slowly, return now to your left side. Gather yourself up, roll to the left. And notice, I'm coming back to my left side. We took a brief departure, but pay attention. My eyes, my tongue. I even mentioned our breasts, your belly, the inner portion of your right thigh, your calf muscles. Is gravity weighing them a little bit more towards the floor? And slowly begin again. Your nose, your chin, your eyes are initiating a little bit of folding to look down in the direction of what would be your chest, your belly, your knees, and you come back. But it's tiny. At the first moment you feel you've gone bigger or faster, or you've really tried to experience, yeah, I can do this, just, okay, the next time, do 50% less to prove that you can. And notice, are there other portions of you that move with you following this? Or are there places you don't move? Not that you create, I'm going to move, but it follows, that rippling effect. And then move to your sternum, the middle of your sternum. If it helps to palpate, use your right fingers to feel here. But gentle, no pokiness. Just to clarify, this is, I think, the middle of my sternum. And from there, you think of leaning back. Like if some of you had your puppies with you leaning against your back, you would be nestling back into them. When you come away from it, did your head follow? What happened in your abdominals? And then you come away from that and you let that all quiet. And then you go, oh, it's my right ankle now. And I'm just going to find that smooth, easy way of folding the front of my right ankle. Easy. So that I can listen. Did it move upward into me? But it's not opening, extending like you're pointing your toes. It's folding and flexing so that the toenails would come a little closer to the right shin bone. That's it. And then you release. And it can rest on the left foot, or you can lift it a little bit. Where is it less effort? And please keep it easy, because I have people contact me. They have these things called plantar fasciitis, and I don't want you to stretch it. Just where it's smooth and easy, so that there's a natural lubrication. Your body is squishing into the surrounding areas when it's done easy. When you do that, you might feel, well, what happens in the front of my shin or the back of my calf? Does my knee, my right knee, bend a speck more than my left when I do that? Do my abdominals contract, and one side more than the other? And then begin to add in the movement of the middle of your sternum a little back, and your head and your eyes, your nose, your chin a little down, all together. And then you come away from it to neutral. And you feel, are you incrementally folding, beginning that process, and then coming away from it? Does something happen with the shape of you on the floor on the left side? Does something happen in your collarbones? And then slowly from that, let it go and roll onto your back. You can fold to unfold. You can open. Figure out how you choose to do it. Is it always the same way, or do you have different ways? And I was sharing with you incremental little bits of what spontaneously are happening in a nervous system unless you interfere. You might even have interfered not knowing. But if you do it small, you start to go slow enough and pay attention. Ooh, what is happening? What is what we call a more congruent movement? That I don't impose something. You just allow. Now slowly return to your right side. You gather yourself up, you roll to your right side. And for this one, again, you will discern, what do I do with my left hand? I'm going to suggest please make some comparisons with it standing in a push-up position where that left hand really stands. It's going to help support you. And then you can also compare if you don't want to stand it. What's the difference? Very slowly, begin to take from your eyes, your nose, your chin a little down. Begin to then bring them back to the neutral, and then begin to bring them up. Your eyes would want to look more towards your eyebrows or your hairline. Your nose, as if you were smelling something up there. And even though it's a very small movement, can you allow your bottom jaw to be soft and free? And notice, where else did something move? You bring your head back to the neutral. You do it again. What else followed? Not that you do it, or you think it's correct, you should, but you're listening for what would that spontaneous movement be if there weren't constraints imposed. And they'll be as small or smaller than where you initiate the movement. And slowly, you come to that place in the middle of your sternum. But now, instead of at the front of your sternum, can you think all the way through you to the back, that vertebra? And it's in a ballpark. If you want to take your left hand to gently feel in your sternum so that you can imagine where the equal and opposite in the back of your spine would be. And you think from that place, that vertebra is going to lean a little forward. Or you're going to bring the front of your sternum from that place a little forward. Did your chin, mouth, nose, eyes, head begin to respond? But make sure that you're looking up and not yet at this moment towards the ceiling. Up is in the direction where your eyebrows would be, where your hairline would be, the wall above your head would be. That's it. And then you come back, but let the sternum or the spine, the vertebra behind the sternum, in the center of the sternum, initiate. And notice if your collarbones are doing something. And then a couple of times, you could actually return to that folding sensation with your eyes, your nose, your chin, the center of your sternum. And then you move through that and you return to the more opening of the front of you. What happens in the front of your throat compared to the back of your neck in either or of the movements? And then begin to follow, well, what else is happening further below where I'm initiating the movement? In my tummy, in my spine, my lower back. Then you pause and rest for a moment on the side. Do you feel a little bit more stable, especially when you want to look up, with the left hand in a push-up position? And then slowly find your left ankle. And now this time, begin to open the front of the ankle. It's the absence of really, I'm going to be a dancer and point my toes, but it is in that direction. And then you come back with the left ankle to its neutral, and you do it again. What's happening in your tummy? Is it drawing in like it did in the opposite direction, or is it starting to feel like it gets a little bit freer and expansive? What happens in your lower back? And then slowly, as you begin to extend or open the front of your left ankle, begin to think of that place in your sternum that's going forward, or the back of your spine, that one vertebra area that is leaning forward into your sternum, or your chin, your nose, your eyes going up. You might also listen to the contact you make with the floor. Is there the subtlest little movement? What's happening in your collarbones? And then begin to alternate where you come through the neutral, your eyes, the tip of your nose, your chin, the center of your sternum. You flex your left ankle into a global gentle folding, and then you reverse it. The eyes, the nose, the chin start to go up, the front of your sternum forward. Your ankle extends instead of flexes. Easy. And go back and forth. It's a little bit of folding, coming through neutral, and then it's a little bit of opening, extending. And pay attention as you explore slow so that you can pay attention each time. What do my collarbones do from when I fold and I round, small, compared to when I go through the neutral and I begin to open and extend? Is every area working simultaneously, or is it still a little bit more sequential? One is playing catch-up. Is one more favorable? And if you notice one is more favorable than the other, what am I going to suggest? Do them slower or smaller so that it's negligible that one is favorable, because it means one of those directions you're tapping into a limit. Begin to notice what your pelvis does. What it does. I'm cluing you into something that later will show itself through this series this week. And then slowly, use this movement, whether you're folding or you're opening, to return yourself to your back and rest. And you can think, I'm not going to do it right now, but you could think if we were playing a little game. And the game was when I said, stop, start, stop, reverse, stop, continue. That at any moment you had full balance and control to pause when you heard the stop. And then whether you went back to the side or back to your back, you could do it without any glitch. Or you notice, where's the glitch? And you could play with that if it had curiosity. So what if you now imagined first the rolling to your left side? Your left side. And that you could think yourself, if all of a sudden, as you begin to roll, and you all of a sudden heard me at a specific point tell you to stop, right there you would stop, wherever you were in the drawing yourself together. Once you've imagined, begin. You'll find yourself coming to your left side, from opened to beginning the process of rolling to fold. And stop. Reverse. Stop. Return, go back towards the left. Stop. Continue. There you go. It's a game you can play with yourself, or somebody else can be the voice. And now on this side, begin slowly with your eyes, your nose, your mouth, those teleceptors, that something over your head has drawn your attention. Where do you move willingly, freely, as a passive response? Where is something holding? You go slow and easy, so there's never a triggering of anything. It's just you're listening to you. And you begin to listen because you're initiating with your head. What else is happening? Is there an arching of your neck, but it's so much and everything else is like, ow? Just so little. You bring back to neutral. If the right hand is in a push-up position, is it the subtlest amount of support that makes it clearer, I'm here? Is there a shift of weight where on the floor on your left side? And then you let your head come back to its neutral, and you think of that place in the center of your sternum. And that wants to lead forward because the back of you, that vertebra, is also coming forward. And then it comes back to its neutral. Did your collarbones respond? Did that make your head, your neck, these other teleceptors respond? Was there already a response that started to happen in your belly, or is that a place you hold? And then begin to add in the extending, the opening of your right ankle. You're timing it together because it's already there, even if you didn't realize it was there. When you make the subtlest little movement to accompany what would be considered a spontaneous occurrence of either globally opening or folding, you'll begin to find this is what they mean when they say a more congruent, organic, efficient movement. And then begin to let everything from your head, your sternum, and your right ankle open, then bring them back to the neutral, and then fold them. And then open, and fold. Begin to pay attention, that gentle, little, easy opening and folding. Is it shifting my contact on the floor? Like if I had body paint and my mat was my canvas, if I was levitated off, would I see this flourish of waves and color, small, but there? Maybe my pelvis. What's happening in my pelvis? Wow, is that alive and feeling a movement? I never at any time really, other than sharing about the pelvis, had you initiate from your pelvis. Yet is it there? And what is the movement that is different if you are rounding and folding compared to when you are opening? That's it. And then slowly, whether through the folding or the opening, roll onto your back and rest. When we move slowly, it allows our brain to have access of the learning centers. That's where change happens. That's where the beginning of our awareness, the change can happen outside of our known. That's for me in Feldenkrais, the aha moments, the epiphanies, the learning that wires into me. And then I look to find it again. And then I ask each of you to find for yourself your way in. It's our attention that's the medium for change. It teaches us through this learning how to direct our attention without an intention to do something, just to simply allow and notice. Where do I move? Where do I hold? Slowly, bring your feet to stand. And place your arms on the floor so that your palms are face down. And then you're going to find where it is that if you wanted, easy, so simple and easy, to feel your palms, your hands could gently lean into the floor for a moment and then release. Where would you align your arms, your elbows? For some, they move the arms much further out to the side, like long arms. There's also a suggestion that you could bend your elbows a little bit and bring your hands a little closer in. And you need to find for you where it is for you. But the idea is there might be a moment that I'm going to ask you to do something that would enable your hands to even start to come in to fine-tune something, because that's what our hands do. The distal or the furthest away from the center, the biggest muscles or bone structures are there to fine-tune something. Very slowly, begin to tilt your pelvis downward. The tailbone wants to go down, and then release. Now, I'm going to add something else into this, because ordinarily, when we tilt our tailbone down, there's a sense that our chin wants to follow. But if I said to you, as you tilt your tailbone down, could you begin to let your eyes, your nose, your chin rock up, so that not only in your lower back, but in your neck, there became an arch easy? That you're encouraging more of the arch, and then maybe sense if leaning ever so easy into your hands helps. I'm not saying do a back bend. I'm beginning the process of if you wanted to create, not just in your lower back, not just in your neck, but throughout the back of your spine, a light, gentle lifting that maybe a friendly little creature could skittle behind you? How would you organize yourself? Would your feet help? Would your knees go closer together or a little further apart? As you tilt the pelvis down, you feel the pelvis rocks. You rock more towards the tailbone, the end of the sacrum, and feel how the crest of your pelvis lifts your lower back. What about the ribs as you begin to lift your head, as if you wanted to rock more towards the crown? That's it. And then if I said, what if you wanted to reverse it? You reversed it in such a way that you started to tilt your pelvis up. And normally, if we didn't do anything additional with our head, we might notice our head rock back. But now I say, ooh, could you begin to bring your eyes, your nose, your chin down, your shoulders forward? Maybe you slide your hands further down that help you lift your head. Maybe you decide you're going to use your hands to help you lift your head. But the minute you feel strain, ooh, think about that place in the center of your sternum that wants to go back into the floor. Would that make your head a little easier? Just even if it's the beginning of the lift. And go back and forth between these two directions. One is a more global arching, extending of all of you. Maybe some of you notice, I'm pushing my hands, but I like the elbows more. Find your way in. Find it, because then it's yours. It's your experience. That's it. And then let it go, rest. Just rest. Now for a moment, as you rest, you begin to listen again, my contact with the floor. Did I effort a little bit more to try to do this that I feel, or did I go, wow, I did follow that. Stay out of my known, which is do more. Or maybe for you it's not doing more, it is doing less. And then you do a little bit more to say, well, let's try that. Go back and, first, roll your head a little from side to side, because that's what we started with. Does that feel different? We didn't do any twisting in this lesson. It's coming. But is your head rolling easier? Because every time you roll your head, even small, from one side to the other, you started the twist. The vertebra, because you rolled your head, the back of the vertebra actually turned to the back, the opposite side you rolled your face to. So that started to ripple down your vertebra, your spine. The beginning of a twist. And then very slowly, begin to think of that line from the tip of your nose to your chin. And now, in your imagination, direct that line down. Is it different? Is it more biased, less biased, more in the center, not as much to one leg or the other? Did it change? Is your contact different? And your breathing. And then one more little exploration. And now this is muscular. Go easy. Legs long as you're comfortable. If I asked you, draw your belly upward into you. But think of up. I love to think of a thick milkshake. And for me, it's got to be chocolate. That it's so thick, it's one of those big straws that I'm going to really try to suck it up because it's so thick. It's like that Carvel's ice cream. And that's the sense of drawing up your belly into you, upward. It's still contracting, but it's a different sensation. Did your legs draw up into you too? And then slowly, as if you are blowing out of that straw, but it's a thick shake, so you have to blow easy, as if you were a trumpeter. and let your belly get expansive. Maybe you notice that caused your pelvis to tilt up and down. And you do that a few times. You could do it with an inhalation or an exhalation. You could do it as a muscular configuration. But feel there is a spontaneous occurrence if you don't interfere. Maybe you even notice when you draw up into your abdominals, that area in the center of your sternum leaned back into the floor. And maybe you notice that as you allowed that expansiveness to move down the opposite direction, maybe blowing out of that straw or freeing the abdominals to be expansive. The absence of pushing them, just free. It's different. The intention is different. Did something else change and move you in the opposite direction? And then you just let that rest. Listen to your contact. And then slowly fold yourself to roll to one side and bring yourself to stand. Now, when you come to stand, you just let your arms be. And just notice, where is your head? What is the shape of your spine? And then very slowly, very easy, keeping your feet where you have them, don't change them, begin to create those movements in standing. So one of them, it was the nose, the chin, your eyes begin to fold. Then you could think of the sternum going back. You don't have to flex your ankles. The more you start to fold, your ankles will flex more. And then you reverse it. You begin to open. Maybe there's something up on your ceiling. You start to look up. Open your mouth. And the front of your sternum will go forward, your belly. And believe it or not, because the weight is shifting maybe more to the back of your heels, even though you're not aware of it, the front of your ankles are beginning to open. Now, very slowly, after you've done that once or twice, where it's in your range of ease, that your breathing, your balance doesn't get halted, let's up the ante. Bring your feet close together so they're touching. Because we do that. And now, the same movements. Folding easy, small, but the legs are close. So you have more mobility, less stability. And how far you go is up to you. But you fold, again, that small incremental folding of looking down, eyes, tip of nose, chin, sternum. The abdominals are already doing that thing of contracting, but I like to speak of drawing up. And where did your pelvis go? Where did your ankles go? Not that you do it. You don't have to do it. It's happening spontaneously. And then reverse, come through it. And then free your belly. Feel where you go into your feet. Your sternum comes forward. Your shoulders might be going back. Your chest is opening. Your head rocks back. Open your mouth. And maybe notice what your arms did. And then let that go and come into your neutral. Reposition your feet to more comfortable than very close together. And feel your uprightness. The shape of your spine. Is there a feeling of feeling a little freer? An improved, Moshe would speak about an acture. We often refer to it as posture. but it's a posture that you are not trying to effect or do something to. It's just spontaneously allowing your vertebra, every joint, to align. And from there, just walk a little bit. Shift your weight. Feel the shifting and the walking and the freedom. Is your pelvis able to dance? Your chest, your arms, and the ankles are flexing and extending. And your head could look this way or that way because they alert you just like your ears alerted you when my sound went fluky. And from that, enjoy this sense of your posture.